Wrestling fans, are you ready? For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, let's get ready to rumble! I'm back!
Miss me?
And the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Welcome back, folks, to WrestleRant Radio for November 25th, 2014. I'm your host, Graham Giason Matthews, and of course, we are not going live this week due to the Thanksgiving holiday. We are off on Thanksgiving break this week. I am not on campus, so we have the recording formats going here today, no live. But we will be back to being live next Tuesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 Central Time, right on EC Radio Live365.com/stations/ECTV73. But in the meantime, though, today I'll be presenting my 30-minute candid conversation with my very good friend John at JohnKnapp17 on the Twitter. You can check him out on Twitter and all of his thoughts on Next Year Wrestling in John's jargon. But we went to the Northeast Wrestling Indie event a couple of weeks ago here in Danbury, Connecticut. Had a great-ass time. It was really, really enjoyable. And on the way home from that show, as we were driving home to his house, we had a 30-minute candid conversation talking about WrestleMania 31. We talked about all things going on in WWE right now, our favorite years in wrestling. We get very candid with our conversation about all things WWE. You're not going to want to miss it. I'll be presenting a little later on in the show. But in the meantime, though, a huge week in wrestling. TNA announcing their new TV deal just last week. We talked about it on last week's show. I might get into that a little bit before we get into the conversation with John. But in the meantime, though, we had Survivor Series on Sunday night, live on free in the WWE Network. The WWE debut of the Stinger, the man they call Sting. We had Dolph Ziggler as the sole survivor in the main event, and the Authority is no more. Just so much going on right now in WWE. A huge night on Sunday, followed up by a very underwhelming episode of Monday Night Raw. I might give my thoughts on that. But I want to take this opportunity to give my full review of the Survivor Series show from this past Sunday night before we get into my bits and pieces and thoughts on Raw, since it was, like I said before, really not all that notable. But like I said before, Survivor Series this past Sunday night, very exciting show from start to finish. Some people will say it was terrible, some people will say it was good. I've heard other people say it was the greatest pay-per-view of the year. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but I did think it was a very, very good pay-per-view, and I'll give my thoughts on it right here, right now. So kicking it off with the Kickoff show, we had Fandango, the new and improved ball dancer, now the salsa dancer, taking on Justin Gabriel. So like I said before, they were promoting this as the new and improved Fandango going into the Kickoff show. Anyone that's been following me for a long time knows that I've never really been a fan of Fandango. I appreciate the guy's work. I wasn't even a fan of his when he was Johnny Curtis. And the whole creepy gimmick, if you remember that, back in 2010, 2011, whenever it was, that never really panned out all too well. I enjoyed some of his work on NXT. But as Fandango, don't get me wrong, he's a great wrestler and all, but the gimmick itself does nothing for me. The only thing that was ever over about this guy was his entrance theme, and they changed that when they brought him back and repackaged him. I was going to write an article about this for Bleacher Report not too long ago, but I never really got around to, and now there's no point. In the article I was going to write on how Fandango, when he was going to be brought back to TV, because I believe before Sunday night, he hasn't been on WWE TV since maybe August or September, something crazy like that. And so I was going to petition for the fact that Fandango should be brought back as a completely new character. Strip the dancing thing, no pun intended. But still, though, I thought he is capable of so much more than this stupid gimmick. And maybe people enjoy it. I personally don't. And it's just not getting over. People did not respond to it well on Sunday night or Monday night on Raw. I know things take time. But with Fandango, the character is dead in the water. It's damaged goods. There's nothing left that you could do with the character. They tried to push it last year in the whole feud with Chris Jericho, and it started out pretty well, and it got over the night after WrestleMania. But they killed it by trying to make it the quote-unquote cool thing to do with Michael Cole endorsing, and that's the kiss of death ultimately right there. And the character never really went anywhere, so I'm not really happy. I mean, despite the new look, the new attire, new theme, new valet, and Rosa Mendez and God knows that she fucking needs to go. She's been with this company for over 6 years now on the main roster. I'm not even counting her time at FCW. FCW was there at all. An atrocious win-loss record. I mean, I know we've talked about it here on the show before. She's won all of one match in her 6 years with WWE against Layla on an episode of SmackDown a couple of years ago via disqualification, not even via pinfall. This lady has yet to win a match via pinfall. It's atrocious that it's even the case. But nevertheless, so I think anyone associated with Rosa Mendes is doomed to fail. Fandango, I think, with this new gimmick, is doomed to fail anyway, so it's really a shame because I was hoping that he'd be brought back in a much more serious role, and here's hoping that they realize that there's really nothing more to the character, and they can just completely repackage him the next time he comes back to TV. But that was that. Also in the kickoff show, we had Jack Swagger versus Cesaro. It's very weird that Jack Swagger, I mean, I've seen a lot of people bring this up, and I also noticed this a couple of weeks ago, because Jack Swagger returned to the ring. Let's backtrack a little bit, because he was supposed to be originally on Team Cena a couple of weeks ago, I think when they were in England, and he got taken out by Seth Rollins, a member of the Team Authority, and of course he would be later replaced by Ryback, Eric Rowan, whoever, so that never really panned out too well for Jack Swagger, so he was taken off of Team Cena. But then again, only mere days before Survivor Series, Jack Swagger comes back in a match against Bray Wyatt on Main Event last week, selling no injuries whatsoever. And I don't blame it on Jack Swagger, I more so blame it on the booking of his character, much like John Cena. Remember the 8 days removed from SummerSlam when he was taken out by Brock Lesnar and the 16 German suplexes? Remember that? And he came back showing no ill effects of the beating that he suffered at SummerSlam. Like I said before, I don't blame John Cena. I don't blame Jack Swagger. It's this fucking company for not acknowledging their own storylines. It makes no fucking sense. And so that really bothered me. But that aside, though, Swagger versus Cesaro, very good matchup. The two obviously have history. Zeb Coulter even mentioned that in the pre-match promo. They had a pretty good matchup. Not too long of a matchup. I mean, it was really weird that Ryback and Cesaro had like nearly an 11-minute match, maybe a 15-minute match last week on Raw, and then Swagger and Cesaro had maybe a 3 or 4 minute match, so that was kind of weird. And, I've had a lot of people ask me, when are they going to start pushing Cesaro? When do you see this burial stop? I mean, it's really hard to say. I said in this week's hashtag AskGSM video, but, if there was any time to push him, I thought it would be in the fall, because Brock Lesnar left. I mean, even though he's a champion, Chris Jericho, Rob Van Dam, all these people taking time away from the company, and you would think in their spot, and not to mention Roman Reigns getting hurt, you would think in their spot you would start to push all these younger talents, including Cesaro. And I'm not saying they're not pushing younger talents. I mean, they've done an amazing job with Seth Rollins, with Dean Ambrose, to an extent Bray Wyatt. They've kind of mishandled him in recent months, but for the most part, they've done a pretty good job by Bray Wyatt. But Cesaro is the rare exception, because I think someone asked me in this week's hashtag AskGSM video, I forgot to include it in this video, but it's going to be in next week's, in that who is the worst booked superstar of 2014 by a country mile, Cesaro. I mean, words can't even describe how much they've mishandled this guy since WrestleMania. Coming off his huge victory at WrestleMania 30 in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, being paired with Paul Heyman, that alliance bombed. And he really hasn't done anything of note since. He's just come up short in match after match after match. Not even only in matches, but in championship matches too. He's lost countless shots at the Intercontinental and United States Championships respectively. And it's ridiculous you're not doing more with this guy. So hopefully they can do right by him as time progresses. But I just don't have much hope. But good match from Swagger and Cesaro. It made no sense that Swagger was not on Team Cena, considering the fact that he was 100% on this show. And logically they could say, oh, he could have been on Team Cena, but maybe they already had a full team. I don't fucking know. They never even bothered to explain it, but that was a bit annoying, but good match from those two. Kicking off the show, we had Mr. McMahon making his return to pay-per-view. I think probably for the first time since, because I don't know if he was on SummerSlam, because I know he had a key role in WWE in the summer of 2013, right before the Authority officially formed. I don't know if he was at SummerSlam, so I can't honestly tell you the last pay-per-view that Vince McMahon was on. And so it was great to see Mr. McMahon kick off the show. adding an extra stipulation to the main event in that if Team Authority were to lose, that they would be completely out of power, because Stephanie McMahon was making the case that, okay, we won't be running SmackDown and Raw anymore, but back at the headquarters, we will still have creative control over the shows, over the programming, and Vince McMahon said, no, that will not be the case. You will only have desk jobs. You will have no influence over the product whatsoever. So that is that, setting that straight. A lot of questions surrounding that from a lot of fans coming into the show, so I was glad they addressed that. It could have been a segment they could have done on Raw this past week, or last week, I should say. So I'm surprised they did not do that instead of saving it for the pay-per-view. I've seen a lot of people get pissed at the fact this promo kicked off the show. I didn't have a major problem with it. I know we see enough of the Authority kicking off Raw every single week, a big complaint from this fan specifically. But, I mean, it's Mr. McMahon. Who fucking doesn't love Mr. effing McMahon? I love the guy. So I was fine with him kicking off the show and addressing this. Yes, it could have been something that we could have seen on Raw a week ago, but it wasn't a big deal. I know they needed to kill time. They killed it with this 15-minute promo to kick off the show. So like I said, did not have a huge deal. It did not have a huge problem with this segment. Up next, a fatal four-way contest to determine the WWE Tag Team Champions. We had the current or reigning Tag Team Champions, Golden Stardust, defending against the Usos, Los Matadores, and the Miz and Damien Mizdow. The match itself, I thought, was good. It was not great. I didn't think it was as good as I thought it was originally going to be. But for what it was, though, I thought it was an enjoyable contest. The early work was pretty good. There just wasn't any excitement until the end, and all the finishing sequences, all the stuff that you're bound to see in a multi-team tag team matchup. So, I mean, it basically was what it was. Didn't love it, but I thought it was a fine opener. Coming out victorious, though, was the Miz and Damien Mizdow as the new WWE Tag Team Champions, a move that I love. I originally had my money on Goldust and Stardust going over. Thankfully, that did not come to fruition. I mean, I like Goldust and Stardust, but I mean, I like them better as heels. I mean, I think the gimmick as a face does not work, as Stardust was so freaking weird. I never liked the Stardust character, and I still don't, but at least it's a little bit more tolerable as heels. But even still, though, they never really did anything for me as tag team champions. They lost a lot of matches, and maybe Miz and Mizdow will do the same thing. But at least I know Miz and Mizdow will be entertaining every single time they're in the ring, as seen this past week on Raw, when Mizdow was doing most of the selling for his team, and Mizdow was so great. I mean, I saw an on-site report for the Survivor Series pay-per-view from someone that was there, and they said that Mizdow was almost as over as Sting. Next to Sting, Mizdow was the most over guy in the entire show, which is amazing. And it just goes to show, because I mean, a year ago, this guy was Mr. Money in the Bank, and fast forward a year later, they're not doing anything with this guy, and he's made the most of this gimmick that otherwise would have gone nowhere in the role of a stunt double for The Miz, who I also believe deserves credit for this gimmick. I know a lot of people don't want to admit it. A lot of people don't like The Miz. I understand that. Maybe I'm biased because I am a Miz fit. But I think Miz is doing a great job in his current role. I mean, he does not need to be a main event star. I think he's at the place he should be at. He's better than being a jobber and going out there doing nothing. I mean, I remember a year ago when he was a babyface and they did absolutely nothing with the character and, all that kind of shit, which I never really appreciated. And I still, to this day, think they could have done more with Miz as a babyface. But nevertheless, though, it is great to see him in a substantial role on TV as tag team champions. He's been doing the best work of his career, in my opinion, since earlier this year when he returned on the episode of Raw that I went to in Hartford in June. So I think the whole Mizdow and Miz dynamic is awesome, no pun intended, and here's hoping they can continue it with this tag team title reign and they don't break them up prematurely. And I do hope that this reign as tag team champions, once it ends, they can go on to feud with each other going into WrestleMania maybe. I think that could be a great undercard matchup. And then maybe you could turn Mizdow or Sandow babyface and do that whole thing. I think it's great. I really, really enjoy it. On the topic of Golden Stardust, I'm hoping that now that they have lost the tag team championships, Goldust can. And I petitioned this on Twitter this past week during Survivor Series, I think it was, that Goldust should turn on Stardust and take Stardust off TV for a few weeks or for a few months. You repackage him as none other than Cody Rhodes. Bring him back in the Royal Rumble matchup. Because, I mean, if you think about it, Stardust can't come back as can't come back as Cody Rhodes the very next week. He needs to grow his hair back out because I think he shaved it for this whole gimmick. So, you give him a few months to grow his hair back. You bring him back in the Royal Rumble matchup, which I did think he teased in a Twitter post not too long ago that Cody Rhodes could make a return in the Rumble match this year, which could be great. Not only that, maybe you have Stardust get eliminated and you bring back out Cody Rhodes. I mean, any way you look at it, it could be awesome. But there's a lot of possibilities there. But I'm really hoping that they have Goldust, be the heel in this feud. I'm really hoping that we still get this Cody and Goldust feud. You have Goldust turn on Cody. Cody comes back in the Rumble as himself, and you build that match at WrestleMania. I know I've been petitioning for this matchup at WrestleMania for the last 3 or 4 years now. I thought we were going to see it 28, 29, and 30. We didn't, and now there's no more perfect time than now to see it at WrestleMania 31, considering the fact they're still in a tag team. Moving on here, we had a traditional 4-on-4 Survivor Series elimination match with the Divas, Team Italia. It was Natalya, Alicia Fox. We also had on that team Emma and Naomi defeating the team of Paige, Cameron. Who else was on that team? Paige, Cameron. I can't even fucking remember who was on that team. Whatever the team was, I can't even remember what it was. Oh, it was Layla L and Summer Rae. Summer Rae, Layla, Cameron, and Paige getting defeated by the team of Natalya, Alicia Fox, Naomi, and Emma. The match itself was good. I mean, it ate up a lot of time, and I saw some people complaining about that, but I mean, they were really trying to kill time on this show, and they did. The main event went almost an hour. That took up the entire final hour of the show. It started at 10 and almost ended almost exactly at 11. So they needed to kill the first 2 hours of this show. They didn't announce many matches for the show, remember, so they needed to add a few matches at the last minute. So I was fine with this, eating up 15 minutes. It wasn't bad at all. They got Cameron out of there, the worst worker of them all. She was the first one eliminated, so they let the better workers do the in-ring work for most of the matchup. In Paige, it was a 4-on-1 situation. They get her eliminated. Team Italia, a clean sweep for their team. So a nice matchup. I really didn't have any problem with it. It wasn't meaningful in any way. They didn't follow it up the next week or the next night on Raw by doing anything memorable or whatever. It was just a filler matchup, and if nothing else, it was great to see Emma not only have her team win, but to pick up an elimination. I think it might have been over Summer Rae or Layla. I think it might have been Summer. So that was cool to see using the Emma lock, and I think they've, like Cesaro, as from the Divas division, as the male superstar, I think Cesaro is the most underutilized superstar this year. But in terms of the Divas, I think Emma has been the most underutilized diva since the start of 2014, since being called up. So it was great to see her make the pay-per-view and get elimination over Summer Rae. So we had that. Up next, we had Bray Wyatt versus Dean Ambrose. A lot of mixed feelings on this matchup. I thought this matchup was pretty good. I thought this was a very, very good matchup from Bray Wyatt and Dean Ambrose. Because remember, prior to this, we haven't seen much of them in singles competition. I believe they had a one-on-one matchup earlier this year on SmackDown. I think it was a Money in the Bank qualifying matchup. So on this show, it was their second ever encounter in singles competition. I thought it was a great matchup while it lasted. Wasn't given too much time, but in the time they were allotted, I thought it was very, very good. If only for the in-ring psychology and a lot of the brawling, which we expected going in. And I had no problem with the finish. I know some people say that, it made no sense for the babyface to get the better of the heel and whatever else. I really didn't have any real problem with it. I mean, maybe if it was John Cena, it'd be weird. But Dean Ambrose has been portrayed as a crazy character, so it kind of fit in with the context of the character and the matchup. So, like I said, both on Twitter and earlier in the show, I really didn't have a problem with this contest, if only because you couldn't have had either guy go over here. We talked about this last week on WrestleRant Radio and a couple of weeks ago when this feud first started, in that both guys desperately need wins right now. More so Bray Wyatt than Dean Ambrose. So Bray Wyatt technically won the match here via disqualification when Dean Ambrose attacked him with a chair. But Bray Wyatt, I think, needs more of a win. Some people say Ambrose needs more of a win than Wyatt. I think it's the other way around. Dean Ambrose is so over right now that I think he can sustain the loss. He's not a Daniel Bryan or like a Bayley-like character. I know those are two completely different characters, and one's on NXT as a rookie, one's the former WWE World Heavyweight Champion, or Sami Zayn, I guess I should make that comparison. Bryan and Zayn are like the underdog characters that they can lose countless times and still be freaking over. Dean Ambrose is not exactly like that, but I still think he fits that role quite well, and that he can lose a lot of matches and still be over. I'm not petitioning that he lose all of his matches, but I do think that this loss will not kill the character like it would have for Wyatt if Ambrose went over here. And Ambrose did not kill the Wyatt character or bury him, as Michael Cole said on commentary. I know he didn't use it in that use of the word in that context, but he still said that he still said on commentary that Dean Ambrose buried Bray Wyatt with all the steel chairs and the tables and the ladders, whatever. I thought that was pretty funny. But still, though, I thought this was a very good matchup. Had no problem with the finish. Built well towards the TLC matchup at TLC next month, which I also thought was great that they announced it on this show and didn't wait until Raw the next night. because I'm a huge advocate of WWE announcing pay-per-view matches in advance. Not only 3 weeks in advance on Raw, but I don't think I've ever seen a matchup on pay-per-view announced for the next pay-per-view on the same pay-per-view, aside from maybe being a number one contenders match or something like that. So that was really interesting. But yeah, very good matchup. Had no problem with the finish. Enjoyable stuff. And set up their TLC matchup very nicely. So I very much look forward to that matchup. And it could be a barn burner of a bout if it is booked properly and given enough time at the pay-per-view. So up next, we had Adam Rose and the Bunny versus Slater Gator, which a match that was set up earlier in the night via a backstage segment. Really didn't care for this shit at all. We saw this next on Raw with Tyson Kidd and Italia. How many times are we going to see the same matches with the same guys? Like, move along already. They've been teasing this Adam Rose heel turn for a month now. Move along. Establish the next chapter in this thing. And by next chapter, I don't mean the Bunny dry humping Adam Rose. Like, this stupid shit that makes no sense. So I'm really hoping they can get to the next chapter in this feud or this storyline, this angle with Adam Rose and the Bunny. Reveal who the fucking Bunny is. And I thought about this when they said it on the pay-per-view, but in that backstage segment, Adam Rose made mention of the fact that the Bunny was found. He used to do kid parties and stuff like that, and then he brought him in to be a part of the Rosebuds. So they're giving the Bunny a backstage, a background, like a backstory, I should say. So that's interesting, I guess. But the only issue that I see with that is that if Adam Rose found this guy doing kids' parties and stuff like that, then you can't really reveal the Bunny to be like an active member of the roster. Unless it's someone that we haven't seen in a while. Maybe Darren Young, but even then, like, why would he... If he was injured, because remember Darren Young got out with an injury, and it's been rumored that he might be the Bunny when he comes back. Why would Darren Young come down with an injury then, go do kids' parties? You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So, it would have to be someone that we haven't seen before. It has to be a new wrestler, someone like that. And I don't want to see Sami Zayn. Please do not see Sami Zayn. I do not want to see Sami Zayn in that role. And it has been rumored that he's been playing the Bunny. Does not necessarily mean he will be the Bunny. Same thing with Justin Gabriel. That would make no sense either. So it has to be some sort of new wrestler, maybe from NXT, maybe a completely new developmental guy that we haven't seen yet. I have no idea. But bottom line is that they need to get the next chapter in this story. Otherwise, people will just stop caring. People have already stopped caring if they ever care to begin with. But as a fan of the Rosebud character, as a Rosebud myself, I really want to see them get to the next chapter in this story to further it. Because right now it's the same shit every single week, losing match after match after match. And Tyson Kidd should not be involved in this shit either. He deserves so much better than this. So hopefully we can get to the next chapter in this story relatively soon. So up next for the Divas Championship, funny story here, because the Divas made their entrance, because by this point in the show I really had to pee. And I didn't want to go during the Adam Rose and Bunny match, because I had a feeling that I would miss the revealing or the unveiling of who was in the Bunny costume. So I didn't go then, and obviously that was a mistake, so I probably should have, because they did nothing with the Adam Rose and Bunny shit. And I knew that match was not going to last long. So I figured the Divas match is probably going to go maybe 5 or 10 minutes. So I'll go. I saw the entrances, then I left, and I came back and it was commercial. So I'm thinking, okay, did they go to commercial before the match or whatever? And they were on commentary, and I guess the match happened. It started and ended in the time that I was gone, going to the bathroom for all of 60 seconds. It was crazy. So I come back and I ask you guys on Twitter what happened, and apparently AJ Lee got kissed by Brie Bella at ringside. Nikki Bella capitalized on that, hit the Rack Attack for the 1-2-3, new Divas champion. The match lasted all of maybe 15 seconds, kind of reminiscent of the Daniel Bryan and Sheamus thing from WrestleMania 28 when AJ Lee distracted Daniel Bryan, the fiance or the husband, I should say, of Brie Bella, and cost him the World Heavyweight Championship against Sheamus at that event 2.5 years ago. So why they kind of drew it back to that, I really don't have much of an idea, but it was interesting though. I saw a lot of people jump to conclusions saying, "Oh, why did they bury AJ Lee? She's on her way out of the company. This is it. Goodbye, AJ. Thank you, AJ. A complete burial of AJ." I didn't really see it as that at all. If anything, I saw it as time constraints. Because, like I said before, the main event of the evening, the 5-on-5 traditional tag team match between Team Cena and Team Authority, that went almost the full hour. They didn't go off the air until 10:59. I cannot remember the last time that was the case. And I know they can go overtime on the network, but they're still airing on pay-per-view, and I know you can't go past 11 o'clock on pay-per-view. So they had to go off on time. So they probably knew. I guess they found out that I read a report that they found out that the match would be as short as it was only mere minutes before they went out, and I'm sure AJ Lee, being as vocal as she is, was probably not happy about that. But still, though, I really did not have a problem with this, especially if they continue the feud, and they did do it the next night on Raw. The feud is being furthered going to TLC. I don't know if we see a triple threat match with Nikki, Brie, and AJ at the next pay-per-view, or because a lot of people have been asking if Brie is, full-on heel, because we predicted that last week on WrestleRant Radio, specifically RJ. We pointed out the possibility that Brie could turn on AJ here and reunite with her sister. Now, that looks like what could have happened, and that's still the route they could take. She was all smiles after the match, and on also on Monday's Raw. But what I'm thinking is that they're probably going to have Brie, because the 30-day suspension thing, or the thing as her assistant, wraps up either today or tomorrow or something like that. Sometime this week. Realistically speaking, I think it would wrap up today on Tuesday the 25th, because by that point it would be 30 days. Sunday was 28, even though they were saying that was day 29. I'm not really sure. But still, though, what I'm thinking is that Brie is going to get on Nikki's good side, completely fool her by acting like she's her best friend, turn on her, go back to being a babyface at some point within the near future, and then, do that feud over the Davis Championship, going into the Royal Rumble, or whatever. I don't think they'll rush into Brie versus Nikki at TLC. I mean, I really don't care for the feud. I think it's better off now than it was a couple months ago when they were doing the Jerry Springer shit. Like, that was god-awful. And it's still not great now, but at least it's better. And I think Nikki Bella, and I really don't have any problem with her being Divas Champion, if only because she has worked tremendously hard over the last year and a half to get better, as has Brie. But I think the full package, no pun intended, has to go to Nikki Bella, in that she has great mic skills. She's really honed her character as a heel. She has definitely improved her in-ring game, so I personally really have no problem with Nikki Bella winning the championship here. She is the focal point of the Divas division. And say what you will about Nikki, but AJ Lee is really the one without a character. She's attacking faces, she's attacking heels, she's leaving her partner hanging high and dry on the apron. Emma, a couple of weeks ago, if you remember that, so she's kind of a tweener character, and I mean, she'll always have her fan base, she'll always be over. But it's just really hard to connect with the AJ character and feel bad for her or feel sympathetic towards her character if she's being bullied by the Bellas, if she also comes off as unlikable. So it really makes no sense. So, like I said before, I really have no problem with Nikki Bella being the new Divas champion. I look forward to seeing where they go with the new Bella storyline, the new twist on it, with Brie potentially being heel. We'll find out for sure in a couple more weeks. I still think it's a ruse. We'll find out. But I look forward to seeing where that goes going to TLC in a couple weeks. So we get to the main event, Team Cena versus Team Authority. Really enjoyed the pre-match video package, by the way. I thought that was great. I saw the main event last week. They aired it a couple times before the pay-per-view on the network. Awesome video package. Probably up there with my favorite video packages of the year, along with the Daniel Bryan and Triple H one, the Monster one by Imagine Dragons right before WrestleMania 30. And also WrestleMania 30, the John Cena and Bray Wyatt one, which I also thought was fantastic. But anyway, though, the match itself, we'll go on elimination basis here. The first elimination went to Mark Henry. Bell was rung. You obviously knew where this was going. He was talking it up with the Authority. They got a shot where you didn't see Team Cena. So you knew where this was going, where he was going to get knocked out immediately. And even though Show would turn heel a little later on in the matchup, I really didn't have a problem with this, if only because Mark Henry and Big Show have their established issues. So it makes sense for him to be the one to eliminate Mark Henry. As long as they don't reunite within the near future, now that Big Show is heel, I'm completely content with this, but here's hoping we can keep, stay par for the course with this heel turn, and they don't completely forget their own storyline by having them reunite. I don't think they will, but still does. So I had no problem with that. What I did have a problem with was Ryback being the first one eliminated for his team, and it's not only the fact that I'm a fan of Ryback, it's just from a storyline standpoint, it made absolutely no fucking sense in that they built the last 2 weeks of TV, maybe even 3 weeks of TV, building up Ryback as what team are they going to have him join? Team Cena, Team Authority, and he would switch back and forth, Team Ryback. So he was the focal point of TV, both Raw and SmackDown for a solid 2 weeks. So for him to be the first one eliminated for his team made really no sense to me. Now, I know someone pointed out to me on Twitter on Sunday when I expressed my frustration for that, in that, yes, it was a surprise. We didn't see it coming. We didn't see the Big Show heel turn coming. But in both cases, was it really a good idea to do it? I mean, I'll talk about the Big Show heel turn in a minute, but just because it was, out of the ordinary, just because it was a swerve, just because it was a surprise, doesn't make it good. And I know some people aren't condoning that as a good action just because it was a surprise. I'm not calling those people out whatsoever. I'm just saying, yeah, sure, it was a shocker, but that doesn't mean it was good. And much rather go predictable and logical than surprising and illogical. I mean, I'm not going to say Ryback is dead in the water now just because he was eliminated first from the team. I just thought it was really, really confusing why they had him eliminated before anyone else like that. Like before Eric Rowan, really? Like, come on. Seriously, that was really stupid. So here's hoping they can kind of rectify that by continuing to build up Ryback going forward, because I wasn't really a fan of the fact that he was eliminated so early in the matchup. But Rusev was also taken out by Dolph Ziggler after Rusev did a running splash on the commentating table, broke the table. Ziggler made it in for the 10 count. Before the 10 count was up, so Rusev was eliminated via countout, had no problem with that. Logical, solid booking to ensure that his first pinfall or submission loss does not come at the hands of anyone on Team Cena, so that was great. So Rusev was eliminated there, so it's 5-on-3. Who else was eliminated? Or 4-on-3. Eric Rowan was taken out by Luke Harper, I think it was, and it looks like based off Monday's Raw that we're going to be getting a Big Show Eric Rowan feud. I could not fucking care less about another heel turn for the Big Show. I mean, he's one of those guys. He is one of those fucking guys that I could not care less. And it's really, really... Well, he is one of those guys that I could not... If he's face or heel, it really does not matter to me. Like Mark Henry, like he works better as a heel, so I had no problem with him going heel. For a lot of people, I would say, oh, he works better as a face. He works better as a heel, so I don't have a problem with them turning this guy. For Big Show, I just don't fucking care. And I know I'm not the only one who thinks this, because they've turned this guy, and I counted it, like not too long ago. They've turned this guy in WWE close to fucking 25 times, something ridiculous, over the course of his 15-year career. That's amazing how many times. It's like a new world record. But, I mean, I know there was a possibility of someone from Team Cena turning, and on the positive side, I'm glad it wasn't Dolph Ziggler like a lot of people thought it would be. He's too over, and I've said this before. He is too over as a babyface. He has that crowd connection. Don't fuck that up by turning him heel. And so I'm glad they didn't go that route, and they did something much better with Ziggler instead, which I'll get to in a minute. But Big Show, really? And I can almost guarantee you that spot was reserved for Sheamus. But Sheamus, who I guess has come down with a legitimate injury, he tweeted a picture of himself last week in the hospital bed, so I guess he is really injured. So that sucks. And I'm not a Sheamus fan. I mean, technically I am, because I got him in my Royal Rumble game earlier this year and getting number 17, the number that he came out and that he entered in that match. But still, though, I really, really, really want to see them turn Sheamus heel, and that could have been the perfect spot for that to happen. Whether he joins the Authority or not, technically he can't anyway, because the Authority's over. But regardless, though, I would have really loved to see Sheamus go heel here. Did not show up, so I guess he really is injured, so that sucks. But still, though, a Big Show heel turn does nothing for me. But going back to the point that I was originally making, they started up a Big Show Eric Rowan feud the next night on Raw. And I'm not the biggest Eric Rowan fan. He's not all that great in the ring. He's okay. But I can at least get behind a Big Show versus Eric Rowan feud over a John Cena Big Show feud, which I was very afraid they were going to do on Sunday night when Big Show eliminated John Cena by knocking him out when Seth Rollins got the 1-2-3. That was great. I thought John Cena being eliminated that early, I thought was awesome. They could have easily switched the roles of John Cena and Dolph Ziggler in having him get eliminated early and having John Cena being the sole survivor, but I was very happy that was not the case. So that being said, Big Show Eric Rowan I think is a better fit than Big Show John Cena for the millionth fucking time. So I'm glad we got that match over John Cena Big Show, Eric Rowan Big Show over John Cena Big Show. So we move forward from there. Dolph Ziggler is the sole survivor for his team, taking on the members of Team Authority and Luke Harper, Kane, and Seth Rollins, 3-on-1 situation. He gets rid of Kane. He rolls up Luke Harper for the 1-2-3. So good, solid booking of the Luke Harper character to protect him. So it comes down to Rollins and Ziggler. So much overbooking here, so much interference, but I had no problem with it whatsoever. They had the crowd in the palm of their hands with all the Triple H interference, all that great stuff. I thought it was awesome. Yes, it was something that we could see in TNA. Yes, it was something we could see in WCW. But hopefully it puts an end to the shenanigans of the Authority era going forward. But still, though, I thought this was awesome. And then Dolph Ziggler had Seth Rollins down for the 1-2-3. Triple H comes in, takes out the referee, pedigrees Dolph Ziggler, puts Seth Rollins' hand over Dolph Ziggler, calls out for a ref. Out comes Scott Armstrong, and I thought this was awesome. I haven't seen a lot of people rave about this. But remember, it was a year and a half ago, around the start of the Authority, that Scott Armstrong was used as the one to screw over Daniel Bryan out of the WWE Championship at Night of Champions last year, if you can remember that. And he was also brought out at Battleground when they did that whole thing. Remember, he was also brought out at WrestleMania to almost cost Daniel Bryan the WWE Championship in the main event of WrestleMania this year. So a lot of good storyline consistencies here with the Authority stuff. A good final blow off to the Authority era by having Scott Armstrong come out. So I thought that was very good. For all the shit that WWE gets, like I said earlier, with all the storyline inconsistencies and all the flaws that they have in their angles and stuff like that, at least they did this right in bringing out Scott Armstrong. So I thought that was cool. So before he can count the 1, 2, 3, Sting music hits. Sting comes out. The debut of Sting, the first ever appearance for Sting on a WWE show. He comes out. A stare down between Triple H and Sting. I mean, some people have said it dragged on a little too long. I didn't have a big problem with it. It could have been cut short by maybe 10 or 15 seconds, but it was okay. So a good stare down, that epic feel that people really wanted to see these two finally go at it. Maybe not as much as Sting and Undertaker, which is where still the money is at, but I'll get to that in a minute. So Sting comes out, stare down with Triple H. Triple H goes for a clothesline, misses. Sting hits the Scorpion Death Drop on the game. Push Dolph Ziggler over Seth Rollins. Referee counts 1, 2, 3. Huge pop. And the Authority is over with Team Cena emerging victorious. Dolph Ziggler as the sole survivor. So a lot to dissect here. I'll talk about Sting's debut first. Well, fucking wow. I thought that was amazing. Easily one of the better moments of 2014. Probably the single best moment of 2014. The best epic conclusion, the best conclusion to a WWE pay-per-view. Probably since WrestleMania, WrestleMania 30 earlier this year. But there were rumors of Sting's debut earlier on in the weekend. I think it broke on Friday. And I saw in the headline, top names scheduled to make WWE debut at Survivor Series. I didn't read the reports. I didn't look up on it and read up on it at all. Even though I had a hunch on who it was, how many people can make their debut in WWE that's a top name other than maybe a Kevin Steen or something, which I knew they weren't going to do because he's debuting at TakeOver in a few weeks, which I'm also very much looking forward to. But even still, though, I kind of had a hunch who it was. People were asking about it all night, so even though it wasn't a complete shocker that Sting showed up in the capacity that he did, because I went back and looked at the reports, which I did not read the first time they were out, but there were some reports that Sting was going to be involved in a segment on the show where he calls out The Undertaker, and I'm so glad they did not do that. I think the manner that they brought him out with the music and the main event at the end of the show, nothing was going to fucking top Sting's debut, so I'm so glad they saved it until the end, and as opposed to doing after the Divas match or something dumb like that, because people would not have cared about the rest of the show if that was the case. So the way they handled it, I thought was great. So Sting is in WWE, finally, massive reaction. There was a fan video on YouTube that someone took at the event, which I thought was amazing. It gave me chills, and so that was great. And I think that was taken down shortly thereafter, so fuck WWE for taking that down, because I thought it was awesome. But still, though, I thought that was an awesome moment. Sting is now in WWE. So what do you do with Sting now that he's in the company? So now, I mean, it's been made clear since then that an authority figure will be instituted on Raw every week for a temporary, for the time being, until they can find someone permanent, because I'm guessing creative still has no idea who they're going to do in the long term, so they're going to do this for the meantime, so I don't really have much of a problem with that, but because we got Daniel Bryan on Monday night, which was really cool to see him back. The authority, we have the anonymous Raw general manager next week. Hated that fucking laptop. We're getting back next week, even though it was already revealed to be Hornswoggle, so hopefully they can address that, but anyway, so what do you do with Sting? I do not want to see him as a new authority figure. I have addressed this before in my reviews and hashtag AskGSM. There's really no need for Sting to be an authority figure, and I don't think that's the plan anyway, so no problems there. He was an authority figure over in TNA. He was watered down. He was overexposed, and I'm very, very glad that's not going to be the case with Sting. With Sting, you need to keep him off TV as much as possible, make him show up every once in a while. They didn't really address it all that much on Monday, aside from Triple H's opening promo. And they kicked off the show with footage of Sting's debut. So aside from that, they didn't really go overboard with it, which is probably for the better. as opposed to shoving it down our throats. But, yeah, what do you do with Sting now? I mean, it's apparent that he's going to be apparently facing Triple H at WrestleMania 31, which I have no problem with, and it appears that Undertaker will not be able to go at WrestleMania. That is yet to be confirmed. I mean, I'm hoping they address the situation that if Sting versus Triple H does happen at WrestleMania, it's a one-match deal. To my belief, they are only doing one match with Sting. I've since read reports that indicate that we might get Sting versus Undertaker and Sting versus Triple H, and that we might get a few matches from Sting. I mean, I'd be completely content with one match from Sting, and I mean, I marked the hell out when he made his return on Sunday. I thought it made for an awesome moment, so they should not water that down by having him show up every week on Raw. But going back to what I said before, in that if Sting versus Triple H is the plan for WrestleMania 31, I have no problem with it whatsoever, as long as they continue to build it properly and do it in small doses going up to WrestleMania, because WrestleMania is still 4 or 5 months away, so we still got plenty of time before then to see more of Sting and stuff like that. You don't need to rush into that feud immediately, so I have no problem with that. But still, though, I look forward to Sting in WWE. Very glad to see him finally make his debut after all this time. After the rumors of him coming over, first started up in 2011. First started up after WrestleMania this year when he said 31 was his favorite number, which got a lot of people talking. A lot of people thought he would show up at WrestleMania on the night after, and all this other stuff when the video game came out, and all this stuff finally building up to this point in a shocking manner. I'm glad they didn't advertise it. The way they did it was awesome, and I'm very much looking forward to Sting's first WWE match, whether it be at Royal Rumble or WrestleMania, whenever it may be. I'm still very much looking forward to it, regardless of who it's against. If we don't get Sting versus Undertaker, it's not the end of the world. That's still my preferable dream match, and I don't want to hear that it's going to be a shitty match, because who cares if it's going to be a shitty match? It's all about the build-up, the promos, the vignettes, the character, the in-ring psychology between these two guys. That's what's going to sell the pay-per-view, not the fucking fact that it's going to be a 5-star classic. Lesnar versus Undertaker was not a good fit because we've seen it before. At least Sting versus Undertaker is one of the most anticipated matches, if not the most anticipated match in WWE in wrestling history. So if we get that match, I'd be super happy about it, would not care about the in-ring work whatsoever. But if we don't get it, like I said before, it's not the end of the world, and we could still get a solid match out of Triple H and Sting. But nevertheless, though, that was the end of Survivor Series on Sunday night, and props to Dolph Ziggler for emerging victorious as the sole survivor. Came off as a major star on Sunday night. And say what you will about the next night's Raw, I'm not going to completely lose faith in WWE for having an underwhelming show. The post-Raw, the post-Survivor Series Raws are never always that good. I have this, history, the memory of all these other Raws, and they've never really been all that great. So I can't say I'm surprised. So I'm not going to completely lose faith going into the next couple of weeks. And we always see this too. After a hot show, we always get these shit Raws. It's always the fucking case, so I don't want to see anyone complain. Aside from WrestleMania 30, I can't think of a really hot show where we had an excellent Raw the next night. SummerSlam this year, the next night's Raw was not really all that great. Money in the Bank 2011, arguably one of the best pay-per-views in modern WWE history, if not of all time. The next night's Raw was boring as all shit, and the only thing we got out of that Raw was the return of Triple H. Much like last night, there was nothing really about that Raw that was really all that notable. And we had the return of former WWE World Heavyweight Champion Daniel Bryan, who was rumored to be there beforehand. I did not read the dirt sheet, so it came off as a legitimate surprise to me. So that was great to see. Really happy to see Daniel Bryan back in WWE, if only for one night only. But still, though, it was awesome to see Daniel Bryan. And the stuff with the interim general managers, I think, is pretty cool. I really don't care to see the laptop back. I always hated that gimmick, like I said before. But if we can get an Eric Bischoff appearance out of it, I don't know if he's still under contract to TNA. I heard someone say that he is, but I thought his contract expired earlier this year, but I really have no idea. He really hasn't addressed it at all. But still, though, if we can get an Eric Bischoff appearance out of it, maybe a William Regal, maybe a Mike Adamle. Some people have said John Laurinaitis. I really don't care for him at all, but I wouldn't really have a huge problem with them bringing back John Laurinaitis for one night only. But still, though, very good episode, very excellent edition of Survivor Series on Monday night. Raw, not so much, but like I said before, I'm still highly anticipating the TLC pay-per-view in a few weeks, and I assume we're going to be getting the return of Randy Orton sooner rather than later and all this other stuff. So, still, though, really enjoyed Survivor Series on Sunday night, and if you're not signed up for the WWE Network, and here's the thing, too, non-wrestling fans, and they did a very good job of, intriguing fans, wrestling fans or not. I mean, if you're not a wrestling fan, then why would you be watching Raw? But regardless, though, if you're not a hardcore fan, I guess, and buying the pay-per-view, my non-wrestling fan roommate, Connor, who I'm hopefully going to have on in a couple of weeks to talk about the TLC pay-per-view, because we watched the pay-per-views together, with the exception of Sunday night, because I was not obviously on campus. I haven't seen him since Friday. I'll see him next week. But we'll probably watch the TLC pay-per-view together in my dorm, so I'll get his casual fan thoughts on that. Casual Connor is my nickname for him, but still, though, even he, in watching Raw all these weeks and being highly intrigued by the main event, he was intrigued enough to the point where he was going to download the WWE Network. He was going to sign up for tonight only, not for the next month. I don't think he's going to get an actual subscription to the network, because I have mine, so why bother? But he was going to sign up for Sunday night only, and I think he missed a show live, but he watched it last night. On what platform, I have no idea. Maybe he did watch it on the network. But he was asking me how to sign up to the network, because he wanted to watch what was going to happen in the main event. He really liked it. He texted me yesterday, said he really enjoyed the main event, so that's great to see. So WWE did a great job in building up Survivor Series, or at least the main event, as something special, and it definitely came off that way, especially given the debut of Sting at the end of the show. So I thought that was great, and I really look forward, like I said before, to TLC and also the road to WrestleMania and seeing where everything else unfolds going forward. So like I said earlier on in the show, coming up next, my candid conversation with my very good friend John at JohnKnapp17 on the Twitter. We had a car ride home from the Northeast Wrestling event on November 14th, 2014, so only 10 days ago or so, or 14 days ago, or something fucking like that, I don't know, like 2 weeks ago when I saw him on the car ride home from the Northeast Wrestling show. We talk about that a little bit. We talk about our favorite years in wrestling history, best years and favorite years, WrestleMania 31 predictions, all this other kind of stuff. Always a blast to talk to John. So you're going to hear our car ride conversation coming up. It's not the best of quality. I was in the passenger seat, he was driving, and I had my phone right in between us, so it's not the greatest quality in the world, but you will still enjoy it nevertheless. And like I said before, hopefully we can get John back on in the show in person once again for one of these sit-down conversations. Probably after TLC when I see him when I come home for Christmas break next month. But nevertheless, folks, enjoy the conversation.
Here we go. We're live.
Conduct an interview, Grant.
Conduct an interview? Well, I'll ask you this. Because we were talking about before, favorite Raws ever of all time. And that Raw after WrestleMania 30, in my opinion, I thought was awesome. And it's one of my favorite Raws of all time. But the other Raw that I was thinking of was that Raw. Remember 8 days after Money in the Bank when Punk came back, Morrison came back?
You just stole my answer. Not my favorite Raw of all time, but that's got to be honorable mention at least.
It was on your DVR. That's how great it was. Yeah, it was on your DVR for a long time.
Back when I kept Monday Night Raw saved on my DVR, I only saved my favorites. Meaning I saved April 2nd, 2012 when Lesnar returned.
Great Raw. Oh, also an amazing Raw, yeah.
I saved
the Raw that I watched over your house a couple weeks after that, remember?
After SummerSlam?
Yeah, after SummerSlam.
Yeah,
that great Punk Nash.
Yeah. That opening was underrated, I thought, between R-Truth and John Morrison.
Oh, that was a great match, too,
It was
yeah.
an awesome match.
Yeah.
But yeah, so essentially I would save my favorite Raws ever. And, it's just a gut feeling you get once the 3-hour mark hit.
Yeah.
Back in 2011, once the 2-hour mark hit, like, that Raw was great, I'm saving it. And that Raw that you just mentioned, 8 days after Money in the Bank, was definitely up there in 2011. It's great, one of the greatest Raws of 2011. Potentially one of the greatest Raws of all time.
So we're talking about 2011. And someone's asked me this. I've been asked this a couple times before, and I thought it's an interesting question. Because I've only been watching consistently since 08, and you have been since 06, right?
Yep.
So what has been your, not the best year, there's a difference here, not the best year since you started watching, but your favorite?
My favorite.
It could be a shitty-ass year, but it could still be, hold memories in your heart, you know what I mean?
Memories in my heart? As far as memories in my heart, I'd have to go 2007.
Okay.
I thought was a phenomenal year.
Your first full year, wasn't it?
It was my first, 2006 I started watching in April, so I was just shy of a full year.
Yeah.
But 2007 was my first full year watching as a fan. And when you look at what happened that year, WrestleMania 23, not the greatest, solid card. It had a solid card.
Yeah.
But things like the return of Chris Jericho,
At the end of the year, yep.
Yep. My favorite return of all time, I know I answered this, or you and I might have talked about this. My favorite return of all time, Shawn Michaels the night after,
No Mercy? Yeah,
when Randy Orton won the WWE Championship.
Yeah, from H.
That was an amazing, that was my biggest workout moment of my entire life.
Yeah.
So you got to figure that. You have D-Generation X in the beginning half of 2007. There were a lot of returns that year. Triple H even returned at SummerSlam after his injury. Sorry, we're driving, folks. After his injury, he returned at SummerSlam to face Booker T. Just John Cena. What did he do that year? John Cena held the title the entire freaking year.
Batista and Undertaker had a great series of matches over on SmackDown that year.
I'd say, honestly, since I've been watching, I don't know if it has been the greatest year. Definitely my favorite year as a fan. And it's a close favorite because, I really cherish 2012. As lame as some of the content might have been, that was near and dear to my heart. And to be honest, 2014 has to take third place. Between WrestleMania 30, June 30th, 2014, the Raw.
SummerSlam, too.
The Raw you and I went to, SummerSlam. I 2014 is one of the better years that I've been watching wrestling.
Favorite or better?
One of the better years. It's top 5 or top 3 favorite.
Yeah.
But, it's been, there are ups and downs. Any year has ups and downs.
Oh, yeah. The Benoit thing in, 07, too.
There are a lot of memorable years. I'd say 2014 is a memorable year.
Oh, absolutely. Whether you think it's good or bad, I think it was definitely memorable.
100%. And just to go off on a tangent, the rise of Daniel Bryan,
2014?
Yeah. Lesnar breaking the streak.
The split of the Shield.
Lesnar dominating Cena at SummerSlam.
Are we talking the product, or are we talking, the wrestling?
Product as a whole. There haven't been, not other than, a few off matches in 2014, there haven't been a lot of 5-star classics. Things that come to my head are, I really like Daniel Bryan, Triple H opener at WrestleMania.
Oh, great match, yeah.
Shield, Wyatt Family, Elimination Chamber.
Yep.
You gotta go Shield Evolution.
I thought Extreme Rules, I thought the first one was better.
I like Extreme Rules.
Both were great.
I liked Payback, though. I liked it.
It was a solid show,
especially the following events on the night after Raw.
Yeah,
made
true.
It a great pay-per-view. 2014.
Even that 4-way, remember the Arrival show? Remember the one that you want? Not Arrival.
I watched Takeover. Was that
the second one? Yeah.
Takeover.
Yep.
That was a great show.
Yep.
But no, 2014, whether you liked it or not, has been a memorable year, and it has had some solid product since the start of the year. But how we finish remains to be seen. I'd like to think we're going to go off on a high note, but you never know.
I think if we're talking product or company as a whole, if we're talking company, you can mention Punk leaving, Ultimate Warrior dying, the network, the change of the logo, all this other stuff. So I think there's a lot of things that people will look back on this year for. The return of Batista earlier this year, the reuniting of Evolution, all this other stuff.
It's a monumental year. Whether you like it or not, it's going to go down.
It's a historic year,
A lot of people have their favorite years. A lot of the most historic years. You got 98. People love 2000. But 2014 goes down in history. Down in history as one of the greats.
I'd have to say 2011 I thought was also really good.
And I watched, I asked GSM this past edition of it, and I agreed with you. I thought that 2011 had its ups.
It definitely had its downs. Yeah.
But it was a fair fight between the ups and downs, I thought. You said it was really...
The summer was what made it really good.
You said it was near and dear to you. Not necessarily your favorite, but it was near and dear to you. Or was that 2008?
2011 was,
right.
Yeah.
And
both for that, but more so 2011, yeah.
I'd say that 2011 was my first year as a hardcore fan. I'd say that with confidence because 2006 I was cheering Shawn Michaels because I thought he was cool. 2007, I was a John Cena fan until he beat Shawn Michaels, and then I said forget Cena. 2008, the fact that 2008, 2009, 2010 are kind of
blurry.
They're blurry to me. And don't get me wrong. I for all of those weeks, all 52 weeks of each of those years, I watched Raw. I watched every SmackDown. I never missed it. But I mean, they kind of just blend together. I mean, I literally remember 2011, you and I having a conversation, and I could not remember what 2010 had in store. And that was a year removed. I couldn't remember what 2010 was like.
2010 was all about the Nexus. That was it.
You had to remind me, like, well, the Nexus was a big deal. Kane finally
won a title, and
had
the rise of the Miz too.
Had a good run.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was less than a year after. I was like, oh, that's what happened in 2010.
Yeah.
So I mean, 4 years later, I'm like, what happened? But now with the WWE Network, you can go revisit all that. But 2011 was a great year. I would say it was my first year as a hardcore fan. I remember you and I actually we had like a hang. We were hanging out one night. And we actually went like putt golfing or something like that. And it was the first time you told me that CM Punk's contract was beginning to expire, and you and I had a conversation like, what he's gonna do? Is he gonna leave?
I'm trying to remember that.
We went to like some sporting place that had like an arcade and stuff. It was your dad, my dad, Jackson, and you were telling me.
Wait a second. I think I do remember that.
You were telling me Punk's contract was expiring. I was like, no way, Punk can't leave. But
I think I do remember that.
Yeah, that was 2011. So I'd say like that was my first year, really like getting a mind for the business, really.
Yeah, it was at the place with that crappy ass golf too.
Yeah,
it was like in the dark, right?
We played mini golf there.
Yeah, but it was like in the dark, and there's a whole bunch of kids, and they had laser tag too, and it was terrible.
It was very
terrible.
There.
Yeah. I remember that. I don't remember you talking about the Punk thing.
I remember that specifically.
Yeah, because it was like in early June, so that was around the time they mentioned it. But yeah, I think 2011 for me had those memories was because it was like one of the first and only times as a fan I was like, I couldn't wait until the next week to tune in because that whole summer was amazing. From like June to August. Like even the shows that I watched with you over at your house, you know? The pay-per-views I thought were great.
The summer of 11 was one of the best by far.
With Punk and Cena and Orton and Christian. Both feuds you can relive in WWE 2K15, by the way, which go to show how great both of them were. So I think that's why that year to me was so special.
I have to say all of the years of this second decade of the 21st century, minus 2013, have been substantial to me as a fan. I'd say 2000. If you're going to count 2010, just get rid of 2010. But I'd say 2011, 2012, and 2014 have been great years for me as a fan. But like I said, 2007 has to go down as the greatest for myself.
2013, I didn't think it was terrible. I thought there was a lot of great in-ring wrestling. I think the MVPs of that year were the Shield in their 6 years on,
that was the year of the Shield by far.
The 6-man matches on Raw and SmackDown, whatever.
The fact that the WWE got away with literally giving like the same matches away every week, just like 6-minute tag, but they were enjoyable.
Yeah, exactly. Like really the Usos stuff. You know, recently now, like the Usos and Goldust and Stardust have matches. I got bored after like a week.
Very stale. After, on Raw, the Usos and Sheamus go against Stardust and Cesaro. On SmackDown, the Usos and Ziggler go against the Miz and Stardust and Goldust. So that stuff got old. But literally, in 2013, it was like, on Raw, we have Team Hell No and Randy Orton against the Shield. And then on SmackDown, we're going to have the Usos and Christian. And it was just, I don't know, every week I was excited to see, what spots is Roman Reigns going to hit this week? What spots are Seth Rollins going to hit? Is Seth Rollins going to hit this week? And Seth Rollins starts, doing a full front flip over the top rope, landing on his feet. Roman Reigns starts getting more acrobatic, and it's just like you cherish every match. And that, I would say, along with, in your opinion, I guess, SummerSlam would be part of the height of 2013.
Yeah,
but
that was great.
There's a lot to not enjoy about 2013. Specifically, the entire fall.
Oh, the fall was horrendous. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, but I remember you and I saw 2 pay-per-views in 2013 at Buffalo Wild Wings. We went to Elimination Chamber at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh, we did see that together.
Saw that on February 19th, and then we saw Survivor Series. So there are 2 ends in 2013, but I wasn't really enchanted with Elimination Chamber. I don't know about you.
Well, that was around the time that we were building towards WrestleMania, and that was when we had no clear direction for that show whatsoever, aside from Cena and Punk, or Cena and Rock, and we didn't even know if that was happening. With all the stuff that happened with Punk, And Taker didn't return until like a month before the show. And Del Rio and Swagger was the only confirmed match, and that didn't intrigue me at all.
Didn't intrigue anyone.
No. Del Rio, by the way, will be at the next NEW event here in Danbury, Connecticut.
Which is where we are driving from right now.
Yeah, great show.
Awesome show. We just witnessed a great main event between Evan Bourne, now known as Matt Sydal, AJ Styles, the phenomenal one, and the NEW champion Matt Taven. It was a great match. As you can imagine, a lot of great spots were hit.
ROH talent, all three of them too. And I mean, you would expect nothing less from three amazing wrestlers. But yeah, it was a fun night overall, especially with the inclusion of Booker T. I'm sorry, Bully Ray.
Bully Ray. Booker T had to withdraw for reasons not yet determined.
He had to do something with WWE, I think it was.
I imagine he had something. But green light. But we had the opportunity to meet AJ Styles on more than one occasion. Bully Ray, we got to talk to.
Matt Seidel was great, dude.
Evan Bourne was Matt Seidel. I'm sorry, Evan Bourne.
Either or, it's okay.
Formerly known as Evan Bourne.
You known him as Bourne for like 6-7 years. You know,
it's hard to wean off Evan Bourne.
It's hard to let go.
He was hilarious. He was a great guy. He was one of the only talents who, after the match, stuck around to take pictures with everyone who asked
for free.
For free.
Taven did it for money in the ring. I'm not saying nothing against Taven.
Taven's a great hand. He is a great hand in the ring.
Oh, absolutely. But Seidel's a bigger name. He's more recognizable, and he stayed afterwards to take pictures with every single fan. You know. So
it was really an awesome moment.
And I like the Reborn stuff too. He's got a new look. He's got a new. I mean, not technically a new name because it's his real name, and he's used that before on the indie scene.
Right. We were actually surprised to see how short in stature he was. I mean, great worker, but it was surprising because we towered over.
I mean, he looks a lot taller on the show.
He adds a couple inches, I guess.
Yeah, it does.
But no, it was a great show. NEW is just a great promotion. A lot of great talent from TNA, ROH, even some non-in-ring WWE guys make their way down there. But love NEW. Been going there for years. Great promotion.
5.5 years.
Oh my God.
It's crazy, dude.
The names of people that you and I have been afforded the opportunity to meet because of that company. For not so much money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's great because I mean normally you gotta go to Raws and you gotta go to SmackDowns to see these guys, but when you can see them in the comfort of like a high school gym or
that personal connection,
a recreational center, it's good fun. It's a night of wrestling that wrestling fans enjoy more so than sports entertainment fans. I mean, if you're going there for all the theatrics, I mean, it's not really like that. If you follow the promotion very religiously, you might understand the storylines. But honestly, you go there for a good night of wrestling.
Yeah, it's a family-friendly thing too.
Yeah, definitely. But it's just great that these guys come down there and they're all nice guys. I mean, Bully Ray seemed a little hard. He seemed like a hard ass. But they're all nice guys. They're all just they know that this is the fans' best opportunity to meet them, and they're excited to meet them too.
Yeah, all the talents are great. We got to see Angle tonight.
Kurt Angle. Oh my goodness! How can I forget Kurt Angle? Kurt Angle is an awesome individual, guys. Great guy. He came out. He actually to to our delight. He came out to the classic Angle music. Graham, if you will, give me a soundbite of the classic Angle music. Give me a soundbite, Graham.
Dun, 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 dun. No, I thought you wanted me to edit it in or something like that. No, I can't do it right now.
All right, well, we're going to cut that out and put the soundbite in.
But we were hoping for a little CM Punk here, because remember, we made that dream scenario, along with Ryback and Rusev, which did come true to your delight.
Oh, hopefully.
Because you made that yourself.
Some Linda McMahon action might have been fun, too, if we saw her come out tonight.
Maybe some Benoit music or something, I don't know.
Gosh.
But you see that, and just, Punk's on the indie scene.
He's on the indie scene.
It's Phil Brooks, it's MC Punk.
What did Kevin Nash call him? A short hand cook at the Waffle House?
Yeah, always slick back hair or something like that.
An indie star.
Yeah, indie-rific. Indie-rific. And I didn't know what that meant at the time, because I didn't watch indie wrestling.
Kevin Nash is such a ball breaker. Only Kevin Nash would cut a promo on CM Punk, in which half the audience had no idea what he was talking about.
The audience didn't react to
all of these fourth wall terms, like indie-rific.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But that is actually the Raw in which we started the program talking about as one of our favorite Raws. So, we come full circle here.
Kevin Nash, the same man who called Eddie Guerrero a vanilla midget.
Oh my God.
It's 2011, Kevin. It's not 1994. Kevin Nash, why don't we go back to 1996 when Scott Hall and I broke in the business and revolutionized wrestling with a new world order and whatever else. It was great. It was a great night.
It was great segment. And I love that you and I could just talk wrestling whenever, about whatever, and we always come up with new stuff to talk about. So
Right turn ahead.
Oh, right turn ahead, guys. So I want to address another topic. I know that you were a little skeptical to address it on the Ask GSM edition.
Okay.
I asked you this question.
We can talk about it now if you want.
I think the fans have been waiting long enough to hear your answer. What is your favorite WCW or WWE pop of all time? For those of you who don't know what pop is, it's the reaction that the audience makes when they witness something, as in a return of a great superstar or, a championship victory. Just the overall reaction of the fans. I'd like to get Graham's opinion on what his favorite pop of all time is.
Well, I thought you were going to ask me the other question that I neglected to answer.
Was that not the question? That was the question.
Well, I technically did answer that question, but the other one, I think they sent in the following video. It was the, what was your WrestleMania 31 dream card?
I'm so sorry.
No, we'll talk about the other one, but I'm just saying.
I apologize, guys. You said The Rock was your favorite.
For that one, yeah.
Okay, alright.
I don't know, was it The Rock? It was either Rock
you
or
said
Brock,
The Rock, You said The Rock 2011.
Yeah, it must have been Rock then, yeah. Because Brock's up there, too.
But, now that we can discuss this, what is your ideal, sharp turn, guys, ideal WrestleMania 31 card?
So, like I said, I didn't really want to answer it on the show, because I think at some point,
200 yards, keep left.
we're going to be having someone else on WrestleRant Radio. Probably even yourself. We'll probably have you back on so we can talk about it on the. I'm assuming the Tuesday after TLC.
Okay.
I don't know when this is going up. This might be already up by then. It might not be. I'm not sure. To talk about this because I think TLC. I know Royal Rumble officially kicks it off, but by the night after the Rumble, you know what the card is by that point. Sure. At least, yeah. By this point, it's like it's only speculation. We're close enough where we can we can assume what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about this right now, and I'll ask you first. What do you think the main event's going to be?
Honestly,
at this point in time, and this is mid-November while we're recording this.
I'm biting my foot because I was expecting you to jump the gun and tell me your answer to what your ideal card was. But honestly, it's just too early to determine. But I'm not going to give you a cop-out answer. I'm gonna speculate. I'm gonna try. I would say that given more preparation, more practice, more time to get over, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar should headline the event. That is to say that Lesnar does negotiate a contract with the WWE and does not drop the title to Cena at the Royal Rumble. That is also an assumption there, guys. That's not a spoiler. I'm assuming because Cena won a future title shot, it's going to happen at the Rumble. But that's assuming that Cena doesn't win the title at the Rumble, and because then the card completely switches. You need a heel in there. But I'd like to see Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar just because I don't want to see Lesnar drop the title before Mania, and I don't know of anyone that can go one-on-one with Lesnar other than Roman Reigns. So that, realistically, that would be my preferred main event of the card. Now, that main event alone wouldn't be enough to sell tickets in reality. They need the big name, they need the drawing power, and Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar just isn't it at this moment.
Yep.
So I could see them doing a dual main event kind of deal, maybe get Triple H involved, but something's got to happen between now and then before we get Lesnar Reigns. I think that can be Lesnar's last match for a while, getting beat by Reigns. That's a talk for another day, though. I'd like to see Triple H not on the card. You and I talked about this. Earlier today, we were talking about whether Triple H might have the opportunity to go up against Roman Reigns, if not at WrestleMania, before WrestleMania. And it's not looking like they'll have the opportunity to do that before WrestleMania. So Graham said that he'd like to see Roman Reigns versus Triple H at WrestleMania. And I said that song reminded me too much of the song we listened to last year in Daniel Bryan versus Triple H, because essentially it's the same kind of deal. Roman Reigns is unhappy with his tyrannical boss, so he's going to go up against Triple H and try and vanquish him, which is exactly what Daniel Bryan did last year. So I would not like to see Triple H versus Roman Reigns. If Batista were to return, I wouldn't complain about a Batista Triple H match, given more storyline time. obviously Batista would have to come back and have a specific gripe with Triple H. But honestly, it's really too early to tell. And I'd really like to be a part of the TLC podcast or live radio show that you do to really, once TLC is over, we'll know, we'll have a better idea of what's going to happen at WrestleMania 31. But right now, I can say that I'd really like to see Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. And I know that a lot of people are probably giving me heat because I said earlier in the summer that I didn't want to see that match. I didn't think Reigns was ready, but I didn't know that Reigns was going to be injured. And we all know what happens when someone gets injured. They come back 10 times better, historically. So, given the fact that Roman Reigns has the ability to come back and literally blow the roof off the WWE, break through the glass ceiling, grab the brass ring, just become the guy, I think that it's his time at WrestleMania 31 to take the title off Brock Lesnar. And then hopefully somewhere after that, he can drop the title to my boy Daniel Bryan, who never lost it. But that's all I have to say about WrestleMania 31.
Well, fun fact about Daniel Bryan, because he said he never lost it, right? If you think about it, the combined time that Daniel Bryan has lost a world championship comes out to maybe 2 minutes. If you think about it, the 18 seconds when he lost the world title.
At WrestleMania 28.
When he won the WWE title at SummerSlam.
Okay, and then lost it right after.
Yeah, like 2 minutes, yeah. Third time when he won it back at Night of Champions, vacated it immediately, so there was never really a match at all.
Oh my goodness.
And the last one also vacated it, so combined time, maybe 2 minutes and 18 seconds.
So, can we go as far as to say...
It's 4 world title reigns, by the way.
Can we go as far as to say that he's never cleanly lost a title? I mean,
Yep, nope.
You can make a bid for Sheamus, but I mean, AJ Lee was the distraction that caused that. You got Triple H turning on him at SummerSlam. You got the vacation after
Night of Champions.
And then he dropped it.
Vacated again, yeah.
After Extreme Rules.
Yep.
So Daniel Bryan has never cleanly lost a world title, and that is great. Yes.
I think that's what makes him great, yeah.
He is by far my favorite wrestler at the moment. I miss him dearly.
It's under contract.
Yeah.
We're not talking about like injured or not injured, because that's what we record this. He's still out.
I think that as far as his character, what he brings to the product, he's the best at what he's doing right now. And I'm not a huge Daniel Bryan fan. The fact that I didn't follow his indie career, but ever since early 2000s, ever since Team Hell No, really, I've been way behind Daniel Bryan, supporting him 100%. So definitely can't wait for Daniel Bryan to get back.
I'm not going to say I've been a fan of Daniel Bryan since the Indies, because I didn't even know he existed at that point. But I think I can speak for you as well. And then I think I also started getting behind him around that point, like heavily behind him.
After 800 yards,
But
take the exit right.
I think it was
Turn
around
right.
the time that in 2010, when we met him, I think was the time that I became a fan of his.
That was
he wasn't my favorite wrestler, but I think when I met him, I'm thinking, this guy is pretty cool.
That was a very cool moment.
That and when he won the U.S. title at Night of Champions, because I think that year in 2010, Night of Champions was the second pay-per-view I ever ordered.
Oh,
and
really?
to see him win that U.S. title for Miz, which I thought was a very underrated match.
It's very cool.
Yeah, so I'd have to go back to then, but go back to the original question here. WrestleMania 31. I'm going to have to go back and watch our video that we did.
Okay.
Hashtag AskGSM back in late August, the same night as the horrendous Raw.
August 25th.
The worst Raw ever. But, because I'm sure we probably answered some WrestleMania 31 questions around them too. So I'm going to have to go back and watch it. Because around that time, remember, that was that day that we read a report that Daniel Bryan's going to be back in November.
I thought that he was going to be on the tour, on the
England tour, which they are on right
which
now.
they're currently on.
Yeah, as we record this,
And,
ironically enough.
Of course, then I didn't know that he was going to be having a second surgery, and that it's questionable whether he'll ever wrestle again.
Yep.
But it's not looking like he'll be back. This is just from stuff that I've read and being a smart fan. I don't know if he's going to be back before Mania. And honestly, you and I talked about this. I want him to recover fully so that he can be comfortable getting back in the ring Because it would be a crying shame if he were to never walk back into the ring. He's a great hand, and I think that he has such a great run ahead of him that he just never fully reached. Like, imagine if
never scratched the surface.
Imagine if he held the title to SummerSlam. Like,
until he faced Lesnar.
There's just so much stuff you could do with Daniel Bryan, and I mean,
he was just reaching his peak.
Exactly.
So, I don't think he's gonna retire. Someone asked me that. I don't think he's gonna retire, but I don't expect him to be back until before WrestleMania. I think if he is ready before WrestleMania, like Batista was, it's kind of similar to that situation. Batista got injured, and this is kind of different, but he got injured in like late 2008, and I think he was medically cleared to go by the spring.
He wanted to go after WrestleMania.
Yeah, they didn't want to bring him back. Well, I think the original plan was to do Cena Batista 2 at WrestleMania 25, which would have been miles
that
better.
That would have been the first Cena Batista.
Or second, because they did their first one at SummerSlam in 08.
So you're saying that Cena Batista 2 would be
at WrestleMania 25. And I don't know if they would have turned one of them heel or whatever, but I think they were going to do it over the World Heavyweight title, which is why they had Cena win it back and all that other stuff. But and then they had him come back because it was too late to bring him back by late March or whatever.
Yeah.
So they brought him back the night after WrestleMania. So Daniel Bryan, who has made a living off the night after WrestleMania, may I mind you, because the Yes Chants were born after WrestleMania 28, the night after. 2 years later, for his first night as WWE World Heavyweight Champion, the fans going crazy for him. You deserve it. So it's that crowd that always loves Daniel Bryan, which is what he's known for. So he can return that night, the night after WrestleMania 31. So that's what I'm looking at. But you made your point before about Roman Reigns and Triple H. A match that I would love to see at WrestleMania, but like you said, there's no one else that makes sense as a logical opponent for Brock Lesnar. So I would have to go with Roman Reigns. But that's what I'll have to say for right now. Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns is what I see in WrestleMania. I know that's not saying much, but like I said, hopefully after TLC, we can have you on again and we can talk more about WrestleMania 31 match predictions. So
definitely.
As we speak, we are arriving at John's residence and hopefully going to go continue watching WWE Network to finish off this fabulous night. So, John, thank you for joining me, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for having me, Graham.
No problem. I'll catch you down the road.
All right, that's going to do it for my conversation with John for today. Like I said before, hopefully we can get him back on the show next month when I'm home for Christmas break. We can sit down and have another candid conversation about all things wrestling, maybe talk about WrestleMania 31 in a bit more in depth. We were not able to do it on this edition, if only because of time constraints. We had just got to his house when we started talking about it, so hopefully next time we can pick the brain of John a little bit more. And like I said before, you can follow him on the Twitter at JohnKnapp17. You can follow me on Twitter at WrestleRant. Facebook, Graham Justin Matthews. YouTube, same thing. Bleacher Report, same thing. Articles going up all the time also for What Culture, their WWE section. New article coming up this week. The top 10 worst acting performances of all time. So make sure to check that out on that website. But I failed to mention this earlier on in the show, but like I said, I was going to hopefully get into my thoughts on TNA's new deal with Destination America. I was not able to. Spent too much time talking about Survivor Series. That's more important anyway, but great to see TNA land a TV deal, even though it's on a channel that I do not get. I'll probably have to watch it off a website. I'm not going to stop watching TNA forever, but I will miss watching it on Wednesday nights, Thursday nights, whatever it's going to be airing on their new network. But regardless, though, it's great to see them still alive on a network. Starting in 2015, there will be no first-run programming for TNA for the remainder of 2014. There is not a set date yet for their first set of tapings, and I'm hoping it's going to be in January at the Hammerstein Ballroom in the Manhattan Center in New York, which I went to the August tapings. So since I'll be on winter break at that point in time, I will be home. So I would love to go to one of those shows in January with John if we can make the trip. But still, though, it's going to be great to see them back on TV, even though I will be unable to watch it on that channel. I'll probably find it online somewhere, but great to see them still kicking with their new TV deal. And also, be sure to check out the new Usos special on the WWE Network. Checked it out after Raw last night. And it's only about 30 minutes. I thought it'd be a little longer than that. But for the time, for what it was, for while it lasted, I thought it was pretty good. They got into the relationship with their very close uncle Umaga, who passed away almost exactly 5 years ago. So very touching stuff there. So make sure you check that out. They also get into their capturing of the WWE Tag Team titles earlier this year, their start, how they got into wrestling, their father Rikishi, their future, all this other stuff. I thought it was a pretty good special. As an Usos fan myself, I thought it was very enjoyable. So if you have the time, if you got 30 minutes to spare, go out of your way, check out the special on the Usos right now on the WWE Network. So that's going to do it for this week's edition of WrestleRant Radio. Like I said before, folks, thanks for bearing with us through this recorded edition of WrestleRant Radio. We'll be back to being live next week and the week after. I think the week after that, WrestleRant Radio, that Tuesday that it falls on, I think the 17th or the 16th, I think it is. SmackDown is having a live special on Sci-Fi, or I think it's USA Network. So we will not be going live that night. We'll probably pre-record a show either on the Monday, earlier that Tuesday, talking about TLC and all that other stuff. But we will have 2 more live shows next Tuesday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 Central Time. Make sure to join us on live365.com/stations/ECTV73. And also, like you're listening to this show, you can also check out all the archived editions dating back to the very first show in October of 2013 right here on nextEraWrestling.weebly.com. Check out shows, check out WrestleRant Radio, go to the archive section of the website, and you can listen to all the archived editions of WrestleRant Radio. So in the meantime and in between time, folks, make sure to have a great Thanksgiving week. I'm Graham Jason Matthews, and I'll catch you guys next week.